Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's episode of Friday Morning Ramblings, I'm going to do a tour of my main garden, go over warm crops, cool crops. It's October 30th. Everything warm and cool are doing really well. I'm going to give you some tips on, how to grow those. Talk a little bit about shutting your beds down for the winter, and just, things to think about. So come spring, you've got a plan in place. So I wanted to show this side first. One, if you can, try and get some compost going. Those are just leaves in a bin back there. Fencing wire creates that. I don't necessarily need granular fertilizer anymore because I'm making more and more compost. Now, I know everybody can't do that, so I'll be going over some tips about setting up the beds with the granular, water-soluble fertilizers. But just try and get maybe a pen like where those leaves are set up, and you can drop your leaves in. You'll really appreciate it come next year when you have all this great leaf compost. This is compost that's ready to go into the bed this fall, maybe in the spring, but look at all the tomato plants. These all self-seeded. This is like the fourth wave. These started growing at the end of August. I'm still picking cherry tomatoes out of there. We have our first frost coming probably this Saturday. Today's the 30th of October, so in about 7 days. So these plants will all die off and then I'll clear them out. But right now I'm still enjoying cherry tomatoes. This is old hay. This is grass and leaves that I'm bagging now because the leaves are falling. It's a great combination of some browns and some greens, but just get the piles set up, let them sit through the winter. Here are all the butternut squash. There's a woodpecker if I can catch it. It's pretty cool. Butternut squash, I grew more than I could off of 3 plants. I'll be giving this away. Wanted to show you these real quick. This is not a sponsored video. I got to meet with the Bentley Seed Company. I like them a lot. These are seed packets. You can go to bentleyseeds.com and you can get seed packets for all kinds of events, for holidays, for work events. Rather than giving out plastic pens or plastic stuff, why not give out seeds? But these are just a couple of the different packets they have. They have hundreds, and I just think this is a wonderful idea. I would love to always get seeds from when I go to different work-related events, as holiday gifts, all kinds of stuff. And again, you can go to bentleyseeds.com. Coming over to the compost, growing out of here are peas. They're actually these might not get peas because the frost is coming, but these tendrils are delicious, growing on their own. Green beans that seeded themselves, growing on their own. You don't have to put in crazy amount of work sometimes to get food from a garden. There's all kinds of styles, and this style is one that's just planted by nature, and I've been actually eating green beans regularly out of this group. I'm letting my beans dry. I'll talk about that coming down the line. So again, I want to just stress the idea that you don't have to be perfect in your garden. You can have all kinds of growth from your plants, great harvests, even if you mess up. Sweet potatoes, going to be doing a video on harvesting these as soon as the frost comes. I let these grow till the frost comes, knocks them back. My no-dig garden, the pumpkins are still growing, starting to die off. These are potatoes that I didn't get to harvest. They're growing back. I mean, it's just wonderful growth, with the idea being I'm not doing anything special. I'm just giving them space to grow. And come next spring, maybe you're thinking about expanding, trying out different things. This example is the no-dig garden. I'm going to be expanding it out to here. The fence will stay here. So the deer come, and this is just T-posts, some string with bells on it. It's keeping the deer from going inside and eating plants, but they will come and graze on the plants on the outside. So this is a nice way to create a deer fence that is really hard to see by the eye, and what I mean by that is when you're a distance away and you're looking at this, you can't really see the black string, so it's not like a fence hits you in the face if you want to kind of keep a cleaner look on your property. Pumpkins, more pumpkins. This is going to be pumpkins and potatoes probably. Not exactly sure what I'm doing, but start thinking about how you want your garden to be, next spring. Now's a great time to build beds, set up beds. This is the little firewood log setup that I created for a raised bed. Radishes are doing really well. A lot of people keep saying these are going to be torn down by termites in a year or so. Spray the inside with peppermint oil. If you want to put something stronger, you can put it on the outside. It's not going to get to your plants. It will protect the wood. Anyway, I'm just thinking this should be here maybe 3 years or so, but just something fun and just kind of a focal point as we enter into my garden. Everything out here is doing really well. Garlic, more potatoes that I actually harvested out of this bag, but I did miss a few. Looks like the deer were chewing down the carrots that are coming up. If you didn't see on my Facebook post, if we look right in there, look at all those sweet potatoes. So I'm thinking this is going to be hopefully a pretty good harvest just by looking at what's growing there. Sweet potatoes, these are planted from slips that I either purchased or I grew myself, but these got in May. They really want May, June, July, August, September, a good 5 months of time to grow to really establish roots, and then you just let them keep going till the frost comes and takes them, and that's when you're going to harvest them. Coming inside, finally got to clean up a lot of the garden. It's pretty much where I want it to be. I just took a weed whacker. I didn't pull weeds by hand. I just took a weed whacker and just, pounded the weeds down. That's a great way to clean up your areas, your walking paths. And the reason I did that is, one, you chop back the green growth. They're not going to really thrive. Some of them will die off. The roots aren't going to be as strong come next year. But I'm also going to be putting down more mulch on this come spring. So what I'm going to do now is just beat the weeds down with a weed eater. Takes 5 seconds, much quicker, much more enjoyable than getting down on the ground and weeding everything. But I'm going to keep everything under control. Cabbages doing really well. Beautiful leaves. The heads are starting to form. Cool weather crops. For me, I do need to get these in August. I'm in Maryland Zone 7. It's October 30th. Just so that the heads develop. You can go with earlier forming cabbage heads, meaning, you'll get cabbage heads that are smaller in 60 days. Some of them need like 90 days. It all depends on where your zone is. But these leaves are absolutely delicious. You can eat these, so you don't have to worry about getting perfect heads. I mean, how delicious would this be, wrapping up something or baking it or sauteing it or even putting it in a salad. Sweet potatoes are creeping over this way. Some romaine coming up, a little bit beat up. Collards, and this was my area that was all covered in ag fabric. That white butterfly is pretty much gone. The frost is coming. I took the ag fabric off. Some worms got into here with the fabric on, and you can see the devastation. But don't worry, you just treat it. And everything coming in now looks pretty good. So the worms were managed. And that's the whole goal, is to manage down pests and disease. You can't really prevent them, at least not 100%, but you can manage down the damage greatly and still get a great harvest. So, and I've been eating all this kale regularly. That's not a deer coming in, that's me coming in and snapping off stuff. Delicious. I like the cool weather for my kales, for my collards, much sweeter, much more tender. This is my root pouch area. These are all the Facing Heaven peppers. I still haven't gotten to collecting the seeds, but I'm going to dry these, collect seeds. I'll be selling them. This garden's going to be a little bit different next year. I'm really going to focus into putting less varieties of the same type of vegetable. For instance, I might do 6 varieties of tomatoes. The tomatoes are just going to go over there. I'm not going to have tomatoes here, tomatoes behind me. I'm really going to be operating this garden now sort of as my main food supply. So I'm going to grow what I need for a family of 2, enough to give away, but I'm going to grow just a little bit differently. If you want to subscribe, I'll be showing you how I do that for next season. But in this space, these containers really did extremely well. These are peanuts. I don't know, you can see them. I don't even really know how they grow, but they're doing their thing. So I'll be harvesting those soon. I think they're mostly underground. Peas are doing really well. I'm going to have a specific pea area for the garden, which sounds funny, yeah, I know. We're all 12-year-olds. So, I think I'll be growing peas in that general area. Spring, fall, in between there'll be something else. But it's been average 10 degrees warmer here in Maryland, so everything is just thriving from the summer. Tomatoes not so much, but I'm going to show you the peppers. They're just going crazy. This is where I had my butternut squash. You can see what I had back there that I'll be giving away and using. The tomatoes that I showed you by the compost, they're just going crazy. No care, no sprays, no staking. The fence does help raise them, but just delicious cherry tomatoes. More tomatoes in here. This whole section got beat up by the wind, and you can see that the metal posts even snapped, which is crazy. I didn't know that could happen. But we had a full day of rain yesterday, and the winds are up to 50 miles an hour. So this will all be reinforced. You know, that's just something that happens. Peas are looking good. So this section will go behind me. Again, I'm going to concentrate the same types of plants into one area so that I'm not bouncing around the garden. Kale that I'm growing without ag fabric, doing really well. Brussels sprouts, looking good. These will probably get covered in some way when the harsher winters come here, but they're starting to form an area. I'm keeping an eye out for these for white flies. And the reason you do that is because if you get a couple white flies on here, so there's one possibly by, well, let me show it to you, by that finger. If you get a couple, that means more are going to come. Let's look under here. There's one right there. Those are white flies. So I will spray under here, keep them managed down so they don't get out of control. That's spinach, mustard greens, kales, just enough, a nice little space for leafy greens. You don't have to do a big space. I think that's 2 feet by 6 feet. Just put in some plants. You can harvest the leaves, obviously. Get your leafy green salad. You can saute some of this, but you don't have to go crazy and plant as much as I am in the way of, you know, Brussels sprouts, all this kale along here, etc. You can just do a little space. I know people get burned out, but it's really worth trying to get some cool weather crops in, and you can still get in these leafy greens now in a lot of areas. Green beans, they're still going. When the frost comes, that'll be an issue, but look at all these baby green beans. I've been harvesting, those are some peas. Let's see if we can find them. These are bush varieties. Look at all those. I keep harvesting them. This one, a climbing variety, must have fell into the seeds that I was planting. Broccoli is doing really well, starting to form heads. And you've heard me talk before, when I try and grow broccoli from spring into summer, they don't work. Or fall into spring into summer. Nope, that would be winter into spring into summer. They just don't work because the warm weather comes so quickly here that I don't get these beautiful heads. And you can see the rainwater on there. They flower, they loosen up. These are nice and dense. This one's really ready to harvest. I'm going to let it go a little bit longer. I want to harvest these before the frost come. Even though the leaves and the plant can take the frost, sometimes these buds and bloom, well, these buds can get a little softened by the frost, so I don't want to leave that out there. But they're pretty cold hardy and frost hardy. Celery looks good. Let's come on over to here. Oh wait, here's something I wanted to show you. So can you guess what this is or was? This was a cucumber plant, and it just sat here, slowly dried on the outside, the inside broke down, and these are all great cucumber seeds to pull out of there, wash, and save. And this is just nature's way of getting a bunch of seeds ready. So these would do their thing, winter would come, they'll sit there. These are all going to sprout if I just left them here, and I'd have cucumbers growing everywhere. I guess that's purple broccoli. I don't remember planting that if you watch my other video, but it's doing well. I still got to look it up to see what it was. But it looks good. It's supposed to grow that way, so I'll be harvesting little bits and pieces. Turnips, different radishes that didn't form, which is okay. I'll be pulling those out. I have radishes going over here. Here's one bed that I've cleared out. Now, if you're going to put your beds to rest, you've seen me do different things. Bottom line is, you could just weed this out. It's always good to pull the weeds out so they're not growing, you know, through later fall. And let it be. You could then throw down your organic granular, your compost in the spring, and you're okay. I like to put down the wood ash, some alfalfa pellets, some leaf compost or leaf mold that I'm making, compost, and just kind of put in a couple inches on here. Maybe put a tarp over it. If you're concerned about wind blowing it away, tarp works really well. If not, just pile it on there. Now, you've heard a lot about people saying, don't dig your garden, don't turn your garden, you're gonna mess up the microbes, you're gonna mess up the soil life. So, get ready for people not liking the video. That's not true. If you put in a shovel, turn your soil, I'll be doing a video on this, and you just turn it all over, you're not killing the microbes, you're not wrecking how the microbes set up in there, you're not destroying the soil structure. You're turning the top 4 or 6 inches. And if you have clay soil like I do, I want to turn this for the first couple of years. Take everything that's broken down on top, turn it down into the bottom 4 or 6 inches, and just make this some great stuff. Any self-respecting microbe, if you just put it in a shovel, turn it, it's going to figure it out. Think about it this way. You've got microbes, you got your soil structure, you put on more compost, everything realigned, you put on more compost, it kind of does its thing. Soil knows what to do. Now if you got a tiller in here and you just started going crazy with the tiller and pulverizing everything, that's bad. But simply putting in a shovel, flipping it over, everything is going to be fine. Hope that makes sense. Don't over worry about it. So if you have this, you don't have compost, you don't have other resources, again, you could just leave it, or just get any organic granular that's on sale, throw it down, maybe put some leaves on, kill off the weeds, let it go. You don't need anything fancy, but you want to keep supplying the organic matter when you have it. You want to just try and take care of it. And winter now, so I would get November, December, January, February, March. 5 months of just stuff sitting on here, breaking down, will make this a great planting area. So I wanted to show you the peppers. These are, so here's one, of course, that's been on too long. But the rest of these peppers look amazing. I mean, look at that. Some really large green peppers. The bell peppers are liking a little bit more of the cooler weather with the 70-degree days, and they just came bouncing back, you know, in a really, really crazy way. I'm just going to show you all these. So I have these in sunken containers. I have 2 plants per container. I will be throwing compost, organic granular on here, just letting it sit. But look how well they do. By putting 2 pepper plants in one space like this. You can do that, double your production. These are beds that I just added. Got some beets coming in, some lettuce a little bit beat up there. Those are radishes back there that just never formed, and they've been growing since August. I want to see what they do, but they're just a mess. Nothing that I can really eat out of there. You can take the leaves, you can saute it. That is manure that is not fully broken down. Put it down into that bed, covered the weeds. It will sit there for 4 or 5 months. I'll work it into the top 4 inches come spring. That'll be ready for planting. And then we can go all the way down here. This is my hot pepper garden. 2 pepper plants in each of those. And I'll just give you a sky view going all the way down. There are some peppers to the left right there, but just doing amazingly well. Tomatillos are in here. That's all been cleared out. Broccoli rabe, turnips, arugula. Turnips are a mainstay in my garden now. I'll be having a full root crop garden. Look how beautiful they are. That was in the short tour video I did. I'm getting ready now that the frost is coming to set up my cold frames. That's polycarbonate. It's just bent, put into this really, I don't remember what it is, maybe a 16-inch by 6 feet. Rainbows, the polycarbonate. I would put caps on the end if the hard freezes are coming. I'm going to be growing spinach in there, and you can see the spinach is all popping up. These were made from the window wells. Radishes are doing really well. Another round of radishes right in there. Just give you a view. And it's October 30th. I mean, look at the tomato plants right over there to the right. They're still going. I don't need all the tomato plants that I've been growing. I grow them a lot for teaching. I like just watching stuff grow, but again, I'm going to be putting a whole new strategy into place. Like my root crop garden is all going to be in there. It's always going to be root crops. Peppers will stay in those containers because they do so well. Tomatoes are going to go into one place. And the tomatoes here, still doing okay. Lots of dieback. I stopped taking care of them. I stopped spraying them, but they've made it through a lot of fungal issues on their own. As soon as the weather changes, the cold comes or something shifts, a lot of your fungal issues go away because it's not conducive for them to grow and multiply and all that. I mean, just look at all those peppers. Corn will be successful next year. Absolutely have to put a cage around this. Cleared out this spot, more radishes, all these beans, just let them dry. And they're gonna get moldy and all that kind of stuff. And then it rained yesterday, so these are still moist. But after you get like 2 or 3 days of dry weather, you can collect these beans and you can store them. Pop them into a freezer for 24 hours. That will kill off any kind of insects that might be in there. I've said it before that I'm only going to put a couple cherry tomatoes on here. I think I ended up putting 8 on here again. Just way too many. So I'm going to go with probably 3 just on one side. We'll see what I'm going to do on that side. So there's a lot of waste, and it's waste in a good way, because it got me to thinking that, you know, nothing would be here if I didn't grow it. So you're not technically wasting food. You're growing food that you just can't eat. Why is that important? Because I think if our country and the world just had a mind shift to let's grow, every family where you have space and you're able to, or on a community plot, grow 3 or 4 beds worth of vegetables, we would be able to feed each other or supplement each other in such a great way that people wouldn't be starving. My point being is that in this space, I can't keep up with all these tomatoes. I can't give them away quick enough. But what if we had a system for that? What if that was possible? And yes, I do get in touch with food banks and places like that, but then you also have to harvest. You have to coordinate with people to come get the food, and there's a breakdown. So I'm not quite there yet with my garden, but as a society, I think we could do better. You know, and people that have more land or like to garden could grow more, share it with their neighbors. But this is so much food. You know, why not give it away? Why are we always like stuck in our mind that we have to go to the grocery store? And why I'm on that too, like sometimes I hear people say, well, if you grow your own food, you can get E. coli, or there's insects on there. Like, we're so, in my opinion, brainwashed to think the only place to get food is from a grocery store. And I would like to help dispel that, and hopefully you guys can too. Got my garlic in. Some of your garlic may pop up when it's warm. That's fine. That greenery will just hang around. These are all tomatoes that are sprouting up, but I have garlic mixed in there. Potatoes that I didn't get to. The russet variety are really hardy, so these will be going inside, and I'll be making a potato soup out of it. More leeks. I can't get through there, but the blackberries have been doing extremely well. Next year in the spring, you know, the canes that produced this year die off. The green canes that will produce next year are thriving and going crazy. So these will all get thinned out. Had some of them creep over here slowly over 3 years. Probably leave them. Maybe I'll weave those through here. I don't know. But I'm just getting some ideas. I love the blackberries. It's my favorite berry, really, to pick off the plants that are brambles. And I do also like blueberries. I'm going to cut back on my vertical gardening. I'm going to keep the rusted garden color, and just for a side note, these are coming back this year. If you want to go to greenstalkgarden.com or just, you know, follow my videos, we'll announce when these are back, and there's going to be a limited run, twice as much as last year, but last year sold out in like a week. So this color is coming back. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to grow strawberries. I may leave that one because I've been working on that tower right in there, but I'm just going to grow strawberries. I'm going to grow peppers, and I'm going to grow herbs. Those are 3 things that I love eating and that do really well in the containers, and I'm not going to keep switching back and forth. You can see that I've been ignoring these because I have so much kale where we just came from. I don't really need this. You know, I've done plenty of videos on growing in a vertical tower. I will continue to do those, but we're going to do strawberries, peppers, and herbs. So coming over here, having to treat these, which I'm not. Look, devastation. And you can see if I didn't take care of everything you just saw back there in the way of kale and collards, they would look just like this. But this is too much for me to handle, you know, with everything that I want to do here. So I'm going to be changing up how I grow here. And even if I turned all of these into strawberries, they're delicious. I love that. So I'm going to grow what I like. This was a pepper that just sprouted itself. A seed must have got mixed into the soil that I use. And I'm like, oh, these are sweet peppers. I know what I'm doing. They're not. It was like a habanero or something. Burned my mouth. Although I grow the hot peppers, I don't eat them directly like that. I'll give them away, or maybe I'll make a hot sauce or something. So this whole area is a bit overgrown. That's a tree. That's a tulip poplar in there that I let grow that I'm going to be transplanting somewhere. And let's see, I just want to show you that too. See the yellow sunflower in the middle? That's a second generation sunflower from my sunflowers that grew from spring into the summer. They drop seed. The weather's been so nice. They are back. So that's really cool. I never really thought of continually planting sunflowers, and I'm going to do that more next year because I love how the sunflowers look. This garden in here is kind of looking for an identity. Again, I have more peppers in here. Some wild tomatoes grew. This is where I was growing potatoes. All the peppers are going to go in one place. All the potatoes are going to go in one place. That's my theme for next year, and you guys can laugh with me or hold me to it, and we'll see what I end up doing. But that's my plan. So I do have a plan, don't always stick to it. Neglected eggplant. Eggplant is doing really well in my other smaller garden. I may just be doing eggplant over there. Not really sure yet. But again, I'm going to put all the same plants, same plant again, like tomatoes, different varieties of tomatoes, all going to be in their own section. Muscadines probably shouldn't have been planted there. I didn't know how big they would get. They're great across the way. I mean, you can see them right back there, covering the cattle panel arches. That's plenty of the muscadines. They're delicious. Blueberries coming in strong. I've been taking care of those, cleaned out this space. I'll be doing something with the hop plants. Wanted to show you this, well, right up there. But again, I just tucked peppers in there kind of randomly, and you can see, you know, beautiful pepper in there. But scattering them everywhere was it's just too much work. So these been neglected a little bit. They're changing color because they need fertilizer. This is arugula. These are carrots. They're going to be 1-inch carrots. This is maybe what, 5 inches or something like that. You can grow vegetables right in there, and you can see the French breakfast are all ready. So you can grow radishes just like that. I like doing that just for people that have, you know, less space than I do. Just learn how to garden, and as you get more land and more space, you can expand over time. I'll be using all these cold frames. Let's walk back to where we came in. So for warm weather crops, you know, one of the strategies that I'm using next year is I'm going to be planting similar plants in the same place. I'm going to be growing less varieties of, say, a tomato plant or pepper plant, just growing the ones that I like. Going to try and have specific areas like root crops, peppers along there, tomatoes over there, so that when I'm tending and when I'm managing, it's easy for me to take care of the plants. You know, leafy greens will be in one space. The brassicas will be in one space. And we'll see how that goes. But I want to be able to have more time to enjoy the garden and less time, you know, popping around trying to take care of everything. You can also plant your warm weather crops more closely together, like I have 2 pepper plants in there. Double your production, get more space. I mean, look, it's going to be hard to see, but right in there, there's some massive green peppers. Here are the sunflowers that look beautiful on October 30th. Look at that cool, I don't know what that insect is in there, but there's a bonus. That's beautiful looking. Don't feel like you only have one shot, like you have to plant tomatoes, let's just say in May, and then you can't plant them again. You have to plant sunflowers in June, and you can't plant them again. You can keep your warm weather crops rolling in here. What you noticed wasn't in here, zucchini and squash, they pretty much finished up. But plant in waves, so that if you have disease or problems that come in with your warm weather crops, you have backup plants ready to go in. If a disease comes or insects come and take those plants, you put in some new ones. And eventually the diseases and insects go through their life cycle and they leave your plants alone. When it comes to cool weather crops, you can plant in the spring, you can plant, late summer for fall growing in most areas, but start planting like mid-August and then plant some more maybe in the beginning of September, every 2 weeks or so, and figure out, when's the best time. Like these pea plants are doing really well. I love peas. I'm going to have more peas growing. But sometimes, you'll go online and it says, oh, you have to plant such and such in September. Well, that may be true for the guy or woman who wrote that, but it may not be true for you. Maybe you have more time. So you have to go out and experiment in your garden and just keep things growing. Again, October 30th, amazing continued growth, not because I'm doing anything special. I think it's because plants want to grow, they want to give back to you, and you just have to maintain them and help them along. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. And then I'm doing a podcast called Gardening Coast to Coast with Callie Kim. We just released our 5th podcast this morning. You can find that in the video description, and check out the podcast. They're about 45 minutes long, so that's something you can listen to while you're doing the dreaded chore of weeding or, tending to your garden. And I just want to say, I do not like weeding my garden. Like my wife always says, oh, it's not work, you enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it, but it's work, and I hate weeding. Anyway, again, thanks for watching.